episode 30.
I would just reiterate to use the SBLOs at the large prime contractors. So our role is to help the small businesses be able to have a hand to guide them through the government contracting process at our own companies. So use us for that. Don't abuse us, but use us for that. And use it as a way to help understand more about the various aspects of a company that you can work with, and really, within the small business community.
Welcome to the Govcon Giant podcast, federal contracting for people on the outside looking in. If you are here to learn how to win a piece of the pie without getting your face smashed in, then you've tuned in to the right place. Now, the giant that not only walks the walk, but talks the talk, your host, Eric Coffey.
Today's guest, AMBERR Hanlon, has been a Govcon Giant for many years, advocating on behalf of small businesses as the Small Business Liaison Officer for what was formerly known as Rockwell Collins. In that role, AMBERR had the responsibility for building Rockwell Collins' participation in the Department of Defense Mentor-Protégé program, leading Rockwell Collins' small business executive steering team, training internal employees on opportunities for small businesses, and assisting small business suppliers in expanding their reach. Both AMBERR and I attended the HubZone Council annual event in Chantilly, Virginia, but for some reason we did not cross paths. However, what I found interesting during our talk in today's episode, she discussed some of the commonly made mistakes and referenced that particular event and how seminar attendees could do a better job of improving and working and reaching out to companies like hers. We discussed the experiences of small firms working with Rockwell Collins and the process she uses to bring firms into the fabric of the organization. In 2018, Rockwell Collins was acquired by United Technologies Corporation and now operates as Collins Aerospace. Collins Aerospace happens to be one of the world's largest suppliers of aerospace and defense products headquartered in West Palm Beach, Florida. Today, AMBERR is the Senior Project Manager of Small Business, Supplier Diversity, and Anti-Human Trafficking at Collins Aerospace. She has a Bachelor's of Business Administration and an MBA from Mount Mercy College in Cedar Rapids, and a Master's of Arts degree in Industrial and Organizational Psychology from Golden Gate University. I'd like to welcome today AMBERR Hanlon, Senior Project Manager at Collins Aerospace. AMBERR, how are you? Welcome today.
I am well, Eric. Thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. And are you still in Asheville, North Carolina?
I am. Beautiful
Okay.
Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay, excellent. Now, so you work for, I guess, what was formerly known as Rockwell Collins?
Mm-hmm.
And then now they're...
Correct.
Okay, and so now they're Collins Aerospace.
Yes. So Rockwell Collins was acquired by United Technologies Corporation in November of 2018. And after they acquired Rockwell Collins, they merged Rockwell Collins with United Technologies Aerospace Group and created a new entity, which is now known as Collins Aerospace.
Okay. And from what I've read, it says that Collins Aerospace is one of the world's largest suppliers of aerospace and defense products. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Okay. And are they based out of West Palm?
Yes. The current headquarters is now in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay. All right. And so you work in a separate division in North Carolina?
Correct. I actually work remotely in Asheville, North Carolina. So we have a heavy presence in other locations around North Carolina, Winston-Salem, Charlotte, but I am a remote employee.
Oh, okay. Anything in the RCP Air Research Triangle? Durham, North Carolina? Nothing
not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
Because we were recently merged with United Technologies Aerospace, I'm not familiar with all of their locations, so they may have something within that area that I'm just not familiar with.
All right. No, I was just curious. I used to work up in that area, and I know there's a lot of technology companies in that region. So that's where Duke is, and so I was just wondering. Now, what's your current role now at Collins Aerospace?
So currently, my primary role is serving as the Small Business Liaison Officer, or SBLO. And so in that role, I'm covering the Heritage Rockwell Collins portion for all of the small business requirements that the company has in order to do business with the U.S. government. So
Okay.
the Federal Acquisition Regulations, or the FAR, says that every U.S. government contract over $700,000 that's given to a large business must have a small business subcontracting plan associated with it. And that plan details out what our small business subcontracting spend goals are, what type of outreach activity we do internally and externally to ensure that small businesses have good opportunity to compete for our products and services that we may be subcontracting.
Interesting. What previous roles prior to that did you serve in terms of working with Rockwell?
So within Rockwell Collins, since I've been hired, I have always been in the Small Business Liaison Officer role.
Okay.
I've done some additional things in addition to the SBLO role as well. I've done some mergers and acquisitions, and I also currently manage the regulatory program for Heritage Rockwell Collins Anti-Human Trafficking requirements.
Okay. And I actually would like to talk about that later on. I'm very curious of that program and why you guys decided to take it on. But for now, I'd like to talk about the small business liaison position and how that works, specifically with, like you said, Heritage Rockwell Collins. So you said under the FAR, they're required to have a subcontracting plan, which we understand,
Mm-hmm.
but it looks like they went a step further and actually put together a small business liaison officer.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to clarify that one of the requirements of a small business subcontracting plan is that there is a named small business liaison officer, as well as what the roles and responsibilities are of that individual. So whether it be to meet those small business requirements at the site level or for an entire enterprise, that is clearly specified within the small business plan.
Okay. And I'm familiar with the subcontracting plans that they have to be submitted. I'm aware that they exist. I've never seen one or read one or know what the contents contain in it. How does that compare to a small business liaison officer for, say, the government, right? Like on what we call OSTBUs or SBLOs.
Mm-hmm.
How does that compare? Are there any differences, or are they similar in terms of what we have on the government side? If I were to go to, say, the Navy or the Coast Guard, do you know anything about that?
So I would say that the similarities within those two roles are that they're both they both focus on saying, what can we do to make sure that small and diverse businesses have the most opportunity to compete for U.S. government contracts? How those specific roles are carried out may be a little bit different. So on the government side, somebody in a small, diverse business role is probably looking at things like working with the large business contractors and
Right.
how to help those large business prime contractors be able to better engage with their small business community, in addition to working directly with the small businesses when a small business may be acting as a prime contractor. From the prime contractor side, and my role as SBLO, I frequently work with contacts at the government, whether it's understanding legislation, whether it's new legislation or changes to legislation that may be happening, as well as if they have recommendations on small and diverse businesses that maybe they've worked with that have good past performance, that would be a good fit for our company to also work with, as well as I also do a lot of outreach internally within our company to make sure that key people within Collins Aerospace who are making procurement decisions and who are going after new contracts understand what small business requirements are. They understand what our small business program looks like, and that they know what things they need to do to make sure that they're having a positive impact on that program.
Oh, wow. That's good to know. That's actually really positive and encouraging for us on the other side of the table, that someone like you is in there, like you're our advocate right?
Yes, exactly. So that's one of the things that I frequently tell small business owners is, the best advocate that you have is the SBLO within a lot of the large business prime contractors. We're essentially people that work for your business, but we happen to be employed by the large prime contractors. And especially being able to bridge the gap and connect a small business to what are the specific program teams or specific locations within the company that they want to work with. Who are those contacts? How can we get meetings scheduled with them, and so forth?
And that actually leads me to a question that I have coming up is, that's a great point. If I was looking to provide my product and or service to you guys, what would be my entry point into working with your organization? Would it be you?
I would always encourage people to use the SBLOs as far as an entry point.
Okay.
But I also want to say, help us help you.
Right.
So when you connect with an SBLO at a large prime contractor, make sure that you're going in there armed with some information about what it is that you can provide to that large business.
Okay.
So for example, if somebody comes to me and they say, here are my specific capabilities,
okay.
And if they can even point me to something that says, we really specialize in working in this very specific type of technology, and I know that you have a program with the Army that you currently have. That's the kind of program that we would typically work on. So that would be a good start. So then I know, okay, I can go to that program team and start the connection process with the small business to see if there's potential opportunities there. And that helps to guide me a little bit within our really big company to be able to direct small businesses to the place where they're going to have the most chance for having an opportunity.
And that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, being the largest supplier of aerospace and defense products, I'm sure you've got a gazillion divisions within the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know? I don't know if you have this type of information available. Is there a list of some sort of the type of products or services that you typically source from small businesses, or is it just across the board?
So I would say in general, there's an across the board. I would add in the caveat was specific to Collins Aerospace. We're still in the process of integrating Rockwell Collins and United Technologies Aerospace. So kind of still going through the motions of getting everything combined together. But in terms of just in general products and services that we're looking for, there's so much that we do right now in terms of the products that we sell, which transpires into the types of technologies we need to get from people. But yeah, we do. I know on our old website, rockwellcollins.com, we did have a section related to supplier diversity with that information. I just don't think that's still live anymore now that we've moved our website over to Collins Aerospace. So it's a little bit of a tricky one, but we are still in the process of going through pulling together our integration plan, as well as, what Collins Aerospace as a new enterprise entity is going to be looking for from a small and diverse business strategy standpoint. So we'll definitely have more information on that to come.
Okay. Well, when I went just kind of as an aside, I went online and there's an application form that you can fill out, and it listed things on there like plastic and rubber, power technologies, resistors, capacitors, hardware, magnetics, glass and optical, things like that.
Okay, yeah. So it sounds like, all of the information then that we previously had on our website is still out there.
Is that the same?
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
All right, good.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the same. Okay, yeah. So that's there. There is already they've put on there a form that you can fill out to submit, and those are some of the categories that were listed on there.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't know if there was if, for example, I've seen like with General Dynamics and they build submarines, they also have to construct buildings in order to start housing, these parts and components and stuff. And I didn't know if would it extend to things like construction as well?
Okay. I think too, one of the best ways as far as getting your information over to us, we do have an online portal where you can go through and submit your information. Okay. However, I always say it's best to connect with a real person.
Yes.
So, for example, I am a real person, and I do encourage people that they can send their information directly to me. And especially if I have it in an email, that makes it easier for me to forward to various people. And again, include some of those details that are going to help me to be able to pinpoint specific commodity teams, specific program teams that would be a best fit. So the more information I have, the better job I can do of getting a good connection. And that's perfectly okay. I think you have my email address in my bio, but we also still have live a general email address, which is Supplier Diversity Office at rockwellcollins.com. That email address still works, even though we are Collins Aerospace. And I monitor that email address. So if anyone wants to provide information directly to there, they are more than welcome, encouraged to be able to do that. Because I do frequently get questions from our internal team saying, we have something, a contract that we're going to be subcontracting some work out. We're looking for specific suppliers that are small and diverse that provide cable assemblies or specific engineering services or whatever the case may be.
Okay, no, that's helpful. And what we will do is at the end, we always include the show notes. And so if you would like, we can make that email available to everyone in the show notes page as well.
Okay, yes, yeah. Perfect.
Okay, great. Now, I know that things are, like you said, you've been recently acquired. And by the way, I don't know if we mentioned this, but they were acquired in 2018. So this whole thing is still new to all the people out there listening. I did read that up on the board. So I know that transition, especially between two really large organizations, that's probably, not an easy transition for everyone. Now, in this particular role, did you choose to work in a small business supplier diversity office? Was this something that you wanted to do? How did you come into this role?
So I am originally from Iowa, which is where Rockwell Collins was headquartered. Okay. And, one of the jokes in that area of Iowa is at some point, everyone goes on to work at Rockwell Collins. And, I was working with another company and I loved the company. I loved the job that I was doing, but I was looking for something different. And in that role, I spent a lot of time mentoring and working with small business customers that I had. And when there was a job opportunity at Rockwell Collins, it was specific for working in the small business program and with a focus on getting the Department of Defense Mentor-Protégé program up and running at Rockwell Collins. So I felt like that would be a good fit for where my interests were. And I applied, and then the rest is history from there.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about how that program works, the Mentor-Protégé program within Rockwell Collins?
Yes. So right now we focus primarily on the Department of Defense's Mentor-Protégé program. The Small Business Administration also recently released a Mentor-Protégé program that we have not yet participated in their version, but that doesn't mean that, we wouldn't have interest in doing that in the future. But as far as the DoD's Mentor-Protégé program is, something that we've seen is the ability to say, particularly if we have a current small business within our supply base, and if we're in a situation where, maybe we've had some challenges with their abilities, or we see that there's a lot of potential for them, but we want to put a little bit more focused attention on that small business so that we can make sure that they have everything on their end pulled together so that we can continue to work with them, potentially build their business, ideally build the business that we have with them, but maybe there's some things getting in the way. So we've done a lot of mentoring with small businesses in the areas of helping them build their quality management system. So for example, becoming AS 9100 certified.
Okay.
We've helped them to implement lean practices and training within their business so they can become more efficient. We've helped them with business development, marketing assistance, all of those things that help that small business ultimately help them be a better supplier to our company, as well as a better supplier to the government.
Wow. Wow. No, I'm sure that makes you feel proud.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun being working at a large business, but still having such a close connection to the small business community.
Now, do you still do outreach, or your organization still does outreach?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because I know I saw you did, I saw from before you had done some outreach with the Hub Zone Conference and some other events.
Yes. Yes. Just last week, I was at the Triad meeting as well as the National Hub Zone Conference.
Okay. Okay. Wait. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that later. That's interesting. I was at that conference as well, by the way.
Oh my gosh, you were?
Yes.
Well, darn it. I wish I had known.
Wait,
we could have met.
Were you in the one-on-one sessions?
I was in the matchmaking. Yes.
That's probably why, because I was an exhibitor, so that's probably why you didn't see me, because I didn't make it over to the matchmaking sessions.
Oh, darn it.
Yeah, what a small world. That is.
The small business community is, I don't want to say it's small because it's a large, but very well organized community, which is one of the things that I think is so impressive about it. And it's very easy to get to know a lot of people within that community.
It is, which is good and bad for you small business contractors out there, right? It's good because if you do a good job, everyone gets to know you. And if you do not so great a job, everyone gets to know you.
True.
So we want to do like Mama Yu says and deliver excellence to all of our companies and contractors around the world. So, but that's interesting that you were at the conference. We'll touch on that later on. Now, the anti-human trafficking, that falls on your responsibilities. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So the U.S. government through the FAR has some anti-human trafficking, or what they refer to it as combating trafficking in persons regulations that they've recently beefed up over the last couple of years. And in addition to the United States, we're seeing a lot more other countries that are coming out with their own anti-human trafficking requirements. So if you want to work with the United States or any of those countries, you also have to make sure that you are in compliance with the requirements of the individual countries. So for example, the United Kingdom now has the Modern Slavery Act. Australia has a version of that act as well. The country of France has anti-human trafficking requirements. So it's becoming a trend that we're seeing more requirements and regulations related to anti-human trafficking in order to do business with specific countries' governments.
It's just, I find it interesting because you're the first person that I've seen actually list that as part of their responsibilities. And I'm
interesting.
Yeah, that's why I thought, I'm like, I mean, I'm sure the regulations exist, but I haven't seen other SBLOs talking about anti-human trafficking.
And so I would say it's probably not common to have the two of those together. In the team that I'm a part of at Collins Aerospace, we're the regulatory program administration team. So our team has cognizance over any kind of regulatory program. So that's where anti-human trafficking falls into our space. Small business does. Some of my teammates are managing conflict minerals, materials declaration, import assist, and so forth. So any kind of regulatory program would fall in the cognizance of my team. And I would still say about 90% of my role is focused on small business supplier diversity, and that other 10 or so % on anti-human trafficking, just because there's not quite as many regulations related to human trafficking as there is to small business, but it's definitely something that we've been seeing an increase of worldwide, not just in the United States, but worldwide.
Wow. And does that fall into the legislation for that? Is that fall under the same dollar threshold as the SBLO or the small business requirements from the FAR?
No. So anti-human trafficking, as in terms of having an anti-human trafficking plan in place, that doesn't hit until a U.S. government contract that's over $500,000 for non-commercial off-the-shelf items that are to be acquired outside of the United States. So there's a lot more qualifiers. So it doesn't qualify for quite as many contracts, where small business, it's just anything over $700,000 needs a small business plan.
Okay. All right. It's interesting is now that you said you're at the conference, a lot of the questions that I have for you, you've already answered them, because obviously you do one-on-one appointments because vibration of being at the conference. Mm-hmm. You do capability statement reviews.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And which makes sense, right? If you're at a matchmaking event, then that entails one-on-ones and CAPE statement reviews. Let's talk about some of the things that you see where small businesses can improve. You mentioned earlier doing the research and finding out the areas in which they can direct you to lead. What are some other things areas that you see where small businesses can improve?
I would also say just making sure that small businesses have their I's dotted and their T's crossed. And what I mean by that is, if you're thinking you want to sell products to the government or to a prime contractor, indirectly to the government, make sure that your systems are all up to date and that you can handle specific complexities that go with government contracting, as well as the products and services that we're providing are oftentimes, critical to keeping people safe.
Yes.
So make sure that you have a quality management system in place. Make sure that you have any other type of specific certification that would be maybe not necessarily a requirement, but highly encouraged for your particular product that you have. Make sure that you have systems in place that you can deliver on the contracts that you have, that once you're awarded them. NIST has come out with the cybersecurity regulations now as well, related to doing business with the government. And that's not just for large businesses, that's for all businesses, including small. So make sure that you have all of those systems in place.
Can you repeat that again?
Because
you said NIST?
So NIST, yes, NIST, NIST, the National Institute for Science and Technology. And they have cybersecurity requirements that they've now released. So anybody that wants to work with the government needs to be in compliance with those.
Okay. Anyway, so essentially that's going to trickle down to us, even if our contract is $50,000.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And I don't know a lot of the specific details on those requirements, just because it's not my program, but right. I know that it's something that I've been hearing from the small business community saying, we need to figure out how we're going to make sure that we're in compliance with these as well.
Okay. And that's something recent that just came down?
I think it's just within the last couple of years, but
there's
been a lot of ongoing changes and discussions related to them. So yeah, I would say when you're a small business, make sure that you're staying ahead of what are those requirements. How do I make sure that my business systems are set up so that when I'm awarded contracts, I can make sure that I can fulfill those and that I am compliant.
Right. No, and that's huge. I think a lot of people, they think about getting the contract and winning the contract, but we have to think about also fulfilling that contract and satisfying the customer so we can deliver on what we promise. Right.
And quality. Our products at Collins Aerospace are critical to keeping people safe, whether you are flying on the plane to the next small business conference or you're a soldier fighting on the ground. So we need to make sure that our quality is at the very highest possible levels, and that extends down to our supply chain as well.
Again, that brings me back to an event that I attended with Electric Boat, where they made the submarines, and they mentioned that they could project out, because they had contracts to build submarines, and some of them were 20 years long, and they could project out their areas of need and the shortages. Do you guys have anything similar, like a chart or a forecast of 20 years out, where you're going to have areas that are high in demand in terms of, or workforce shortages? Do you have anything like that you know of?
I know that we have that. I don't know what the specifics are to it.
Okay.
I know many of our contracts, go on for years and years. There are airplanes still in service that are 30 years old, for example. So yeah, I know that we have it. I don't know that I necessarily have any specifics right off the bat right now that I can say, here are things that we're going to be needing.
Okay. What about if I had a new product or service, if I had some sort of an invention?
So these are always interesting and new and great ideas. In that scenario, I would again say, connect with me and help direct me towards, giving me an example or an idea of this technology could be used by this specific customer, or as an additional platform on this specific product. Okay. Because then I can connect with those teams that know the most about that. Or even our advanced technology, more research and development focused team, because those will be the people that have the best insight into knowing, this is something that we would be interested in, or maybe it's not necessarily within our market area, but we can at least provide that information.
Okay. And I think that's helpful, right? That's all anyone could ask for is allow me to talk to someone to see if this makes sense. To validate, that the proof that this idea, does it have any validity? Is it any good? Or is it, like you said, maybe I should be talking to a different firm?
And I would also say too, if anybody's out there that has ideas on new technologies, to look into the SBIR, or Small Business Innovative Research Program. So that program is funded. 3% of the total DoD budget goes to fund that program, and they are looking for new advanced technologies. And if you're a small business, you've got a great in to be able to get some funding to work on prototyping, research, and development of an idea that you may have.
Okay. We talked about small business. Is your definition of small business the same as the government's with the NAICS codes? Or is it?
Yes.
Or is that just,
yes.
Okay. No, I was just wondering, because I know a lot of people talk about small businesses, but I've met large companies that are not doing business with the government. Would their entry point be the same thing, talking to you?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. I was just wondering.
And I'm guessing you're talking about like the MBEs and WBEs, minority business enterprise, and women business. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Speaking of that, do you guys follow, or is the regulations require that you guys follow the same socio-economic categories in terms of the percentages, or is it something different?
So our program is set up and structured around meeting the requirements that the U.S. government has. So the goals that we have for our small business goals are tied directly into our U.S. government contracts. Okay. Now, that being said, we still want to make sure that we're being inclusive of looking at diverse suppliers in general. Okay. So although we don't have a government contract necessarily that says we have to have a certain percent of our spend with an MBE or a WBE, we're still also interested in looking and connecting with those companies, because they still may be a great fit and have products and services that are in need that we have.
Okay. No, that's great to know. Again, everyone's just looking. They if they are wanting to engage or talk with you, my hope is that they have a valid product or service that they can deliver. So for me, I just want to be able to allow them a way in and to the door, because everyone can't travel to a conference or an event. And if they have a way
Right.
and if they have a way of reaching you directly, that's perfect. That's perfect. Now, can you say something? This is a little bit different kind of question. So you've been there 7 years, 8 years?
Actually, almost 12 years.
12 years, really?
Yeah.
12 years? Well, I guess I'm counting. Yeah, I see you 12. Yeah, you're right. I guess on here it says 7 years, then it shows where you were enterprise chair and project manager. And then from 2007, you were senior project manager in small business office.
Yeah, so I've dabbled in other areas in addition to the SBLO, but yeah, I've got some other stuff on there too. But
can you share with us something that you've learned in your journey working with the government that you wish someone had shared with you when you started?
I think the biggest thing is to be patient.
Okay.
Patient with the government, as well as being patient with the large prime contractors. So in my previous experience before working at this company, I was working more in small to medium-sized businesses. And, I felt it was a little bit easier to just go and make something happen and get something done. Where when you're working with the U.S. government, as I'm sure that many of us are aware, is you have to be a little bit more patient working with large businesses. You don't just make a phone call and a purchase order is awarded that afternoon or something. There's time, there's processes to go through, and to just be patient with that, be diligent, follow up. And then I think also, when people give you input, feedback, and advice, to take that into consideration. And then to use that to say, okay, well, now what can I do about this? Because I get frustrated sometimes too.
Yeah, really? No, not Amber.
So I understand that, but there's always something that, something productive that you can get out of, that when you're in a situation where you have to be patient and you're waiting for things to happen, there's always some action that you can take. Right. So figure out what that is, use your contacts and networks to be able to tap into that. But yeah, have some patience.
Yeah, I've learned that as well. I've learned that myself. You know what? I think that was a great answer. That was definitely a great answer, because I've had to learn patience and work with the government. I think a lot of us, and I've heard it, you reach out to someone a couple times and they don't respond back, and all of a sudden you're frustrated, and and you think that they forgot about you, and then 3 months later you get a phone call that says, "Hey, do you still have that service? I need it today."
Yes, exactly.
Right. So that happens with you guys. Well, any other advice or parting words that you have for small businesses out there? And I'll let you close out.
Well, and I think I said this at the start, but I would just reiterate to use the SBLOs at the large prime contractors. So our role is to help the small businesses be able to have a hand to guide them through the government contracting process at our own companies. So use us for that. Don't abuse us, but use us for that. And use it as a way to help understand more about the various aspects of a company that you can work with, and really, within the small business community. Like we had talked about, small business community is a very well orchestrated and very friendly group. So use those networks and connections to connect with other SBLOs, with other small business owners, with the ASDBU offices at the government, and so forth.
Thank you. One thing I want to circle back around that I just realized, you mentioned the word Triad.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us what that is for those of us who don't know?
Yes. So the Triad meeting is a meeting that happens 2 times per year. And the focus is on bringing together the government small business contacts, the large business, small business folks, such as myself in the SBLO role, as well as the actual small business community. And we get together in a room and talk through, what's going on within government contracting related to small business, what new and upcoming legislation is happening, what are the trends that we're seeing. So this meeting is not a marketing pitch about specific small businesses, but rather how can all of the various parties within the small business community work and engage together better.
And you said the small business community is invited to participate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
but again, not as a marketing pitch, but
no,
more
right.
as just how do we provide policies, good feedback? Yeah, exactly. And there are 2 women who are the chairs for the Triad meeting, Diane Dempsey with BAE Systems and Suzanne Rehab from Lockheed Martin. And they do a fantastic job of pulling together really all of the key critical people from the small business community and facilitating really great, interesting discussion during those meetings.
Triad, Association Small Business Advisory Panel Conference. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, and it's sponsored by NDIA, so National Defense Industry Association.
Okay.
I can send you a link to that too.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up as we're having a conversation, so that way I can make sure that we provide everyone with the information. So for everyone out there, it says this is definitely, if you have questions, concerns about, I guess more so the process, this would be where you would attend.
Yes, yeah, and it is specific, more like geared towards the defense industry.
Right.
But yeah, if you want to learn about small business legislation, understand, how do the small business directors at the Army or the Navy, what's going on within their offices, and so forth, that would be a good informative session to attend.
Okay, wow. So. It looks like they just had it on September the 4th.
Yes, so they always pair the Triad with another small business conference. So the fall one is typically paired with the National Hub Zone Conference. So it happened the day before. And then the next meeting will be in conjunction with the National 8A Conference, which I believe is in New Orleans this year. Great
place. All right. Will you be in New Orleans at the National 8A Conference?
I am planning to be.
Okay. So maybe I'll bump into you there.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. I'll make sure to come look for you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Or at NMSDC too, which is coming up in October.
Which one?
NMSDC.
Say it slower. So
sorry. National Minority Supplier Development Council, or NMSDC, which will be in Atlanta in October. I think maybe around the 12th or 13th through the 15th or 16th, somewhere in that time frame.
All right. No, that's perfect. Well, I'll make sure to look that up and provide that to our listeners. However, by the time that this is released, it'll probably already be past the conference. But I will still make the information available as they can attend the 2020 conference for all of these events and more. So
absolutely.
All right, Amber. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on our podcast. We appreciate all your time. Thank you for sharing about Collins Aerospace. And we look forward to all the changes that are coming about in 2020.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time, Eric.
All right. Thank you so much. When researching Amber, I noticed that she's a very active small business liaison officer, and not to mention such a delight to speak with. She served on several boards in the past and is active on the event circuit, promoting her firm's inclusion of diversity. In fact, contrary to popular belief, the former Rockwell Collins saw the managing of their company's small business office as an essential component to their ability to grow and identify new market opportunities. And I do not see that effort wavering in her new role as the parent company United Technologies has received numerous awards and been recognized as a good workplace for women, LGBTQ, Latinas, people with disabilities, and millennials. For the show notes to all of this information and more, please visit our website over at govcongiants.com/podcast. And always have a wonderful, wonderful week.